What's up everybody? Welcome back to another episode of B is for Boat. In today's episode, we're here working on our pontoon yacht. This thing started life as an idea on a computer to build the ultimate pontoon yacht. I got a little wild with the company credit card one day and the project started happening real quick. We got 6 pontoons delivered to the shop. We cut some in half and attached them to the others to make ultra long pontoons. We cut the fronts off of some center ones and arranged them so we'd have a 4 pontoon layout. And in the last episode, we built a massive enclosure for our hot tub that is mounted in the front of the boat. So in today's episode, what we're gonna be focusing on is attaching everything to everything. All the flooring, all the decking, we need to have a flat surface across here with aluminum stringers that are gonna attach every pontoon to every pontoon, the hot tub box to every pontoon, and it will give us a place to put our flooring. Then we'll start applying some flooring and testing out that and see what layout's gonna work and how it's gonna feel. There's gonna be a lot of cutting and welding. This is gonna be an expensive one. Let's get started. So it's gonna be a little quieter than usual because I'm pulling the weekend shift. I love coming in here and working on weekends because there's no outside distractions. Every other business is closed, nobody's calling me. I can just have fun and hunker down and focus on work, which I really enjoy getting the opportunity to do that. So I'm gonna go ahead and start here on the back. Now you can see we've got one example stringer run right here. This one in particular is some C-channel that is actually very much just a placeholder because we need to put some really heavy duty stuff back here because our swim deck is gonna mount to this stuff back here. So this is gonna be rebuilt. It's a placeholder to make sure that we're keeping all of the pontoons square and level, and yeah. That's it, square and level. The engines mount off the backs of those 2 pontoons right there in a really smart way that where they swing, they won't hit this pontoon. I thought about this a little bit. All right, so I got this really cool thing, which is schematics for our engines and stuff like that. And so it's got a 30-degree tilt each way, which takes up 20 and 5/16 space at like kind of the max width if it's all the way tilted. If it's all the way cranked, looks like in the back it's 18.5 and in the front it's 20 and 5/16. So let's look at that in real life. When we come over here, sorry, I just dropped the measuring tape, but I measured from the center of this, if we mounted the engine directly in the center of that, over to here, and we are 19.5. So I'm gonna have to scooch these center guys inward a little bit. We want to have them as wide as we can. That's going to help with stability of the boat, keeping everything as wide as it can possibly be. So we're moving this thing over about 1 inch, and that will be its resting ground. So figuring out these dimensions of these holes is actually really easy because you just take the math from your max width that you wanted and everything and subtract it and then divide it, and yeah. But this is going to take every last brain cell I got to figure out. The best way to do this is definitely with math, measuring the distance of the holes here, and then just using math to say that's where these set of holes go, that's where those set of holes go, that's where that set of holes and that set of holes go. Drill them all, and then move the pontoons to match that. I'll get this figured out. All right, I mathed it. It's not fun, but there's the plan. This is the like kind of drill out pattern. What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take this here marker right here and I'm gonna cut a piece to length. These pieces that go on the back full width are 11 foot 10 inches to give us room to fit out the garage door. Been seeing that comment a lot. Yeah, we're planning to fit out. I'm gonna cut it to length and then I'm gonna mark out all my holes based on math, where they go. And then I'll move the pontoons to make sure that they match up with all of the holes. And then we'll measure just one last verification from the center to the edge and make sure it's 21 inches. I added a little bit of space for safety room. Well, my math was sound, but I did it off of a pontoon. You could see that that guy is not quite level, and that caused it to be off by a 1/2 inch when I tried it out on the level one. So all this means is I got to take a 1/2 inch out of that dimension right there, which will scoot these 2 pontoons more outward a 1/2 inch, and we'll be in good shape. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. I'm going to drill this, I'm going to bolt it in, and that's going to help me, and then I'm going to also walk over to the front one up here. Do we have a front one? No, we don't. Dang it. So I'm going to copy the math over. This obviously has some holes already, but I'm going to add the 2 holes for the inner pontoons and then bolt everything up and then shim everything so they're level to the world, and then I'll do the corner to corner measurements as well to find square, and that'll get everything like lined up, feeling good, and I'll feel good about this as far as where our holes need to be. Hole calculations. Okay, anyways, I got that stringer. I got a stringer on there, drilled, bolted down. Now, the other thing that I wanted to mention is as I'm getting a tape measure on a lot of these things and looking at these, they're built pretty rough. They are built pretty rough. Different hole dimensions, different holes are placed in different areas on some pieces. Like for instance, right here, my hole is measured perfectly. It works perfectly on the other side, but here I'm almost a half inch off. My favorite measurement, I'm a third of an inch off right here. This hole should be there. You can also see this thing sitting low, so it either got dented maybe or it got moved in the creation process. It's just not, it's not right. So I have to custom drill that one out, and then I'll put a bolt through it. So my hope was with these pontoons is that I would use the math and I would throw a bunch of stringers on here, and then once I tighten them all down and bolt them all down, everything is going to go into place and be properly aligned and happy. But with not having a lot of the mounting spots on the center pontoons, we have to just be very careful doing that. So things need to be cut and moved up front, but I need to make sure everything's square and perpendicular. So I got to keep doing some front stringers here to make sure that this is all happy. So I'm going to go ahead and do these two right here, and then I'm going to do that one right there, and that'll get me feeling a little bit more comfortable. And I might even do a temporary few in the center if my drop pieces, I take 4-foot drop pieces off of these cuts when I make these. If that's less than 4 feet, which I think is going to be really close, I might build a couple that are temporary right there because I know the dimension, the width that those two mounting points are supposed to be from each other. And this is just to kind of hold everything in place and get it all snugged up, get it all tightened down. That'll get the rotation of these things happy and everything like that before we start creating the new mounting points, so we know that they're dead on. So like, for instance, we got to weld them in there and there, and we got to weld them in there and there. So before we go ahead and start creating mounting points, we need to really make sure that these things are bolted up and happy in the way that they were built. The next day, the guys came in and helped me. I took all those things that I cut and drilled yesterday, and we got bolts in every single one of them. We got them snugged down onto the pontoons, and everything is really firmed up. It's squared up. It's right where we want it to be. It's flush. It's happy. This is really good. We have a nice sturdy structure now. That's exactly what I wanted to get started. I've got those small guys in here setting the width on the two front pontoons nicely, getting our height dialed in as well nicely. So everything is really coming together. I'm happy about it. So now I feel very comfortable with where all the pontoons are placed and like that they're in the right spot. So that means we can start making the mounts to basically adapt. Obviously we cut a bunch of the mounts off of the center pontoon, so center pontoons. So now we need to build those back in to match with our outer pontoons. So what we're going to do first is work with these pads. We've got a set of pads on the two centers, and then we've got a set of pads on the outer right here. Oscar got those pads drilled out and bolted in, so we're good there. We moved one of those railings up here. We're gonna deal with the last little pads before we start welding in all of our fresh mounts. These pads, the dimensions are totally off, and we need all these to be completely flush. So we're gonna flip this around, drill some siding holes in it, and drill new holes into the pads, and then we'll bolt this railing in. And then while that's going on, Kyle and I are gonna get this thing prepped up to start bolting in right here, and we'll start bolting in some of our new mounts on the center pontoons. Get them ready to be welded in. It's welding time. You guys remember that movie? It's like, it's Morbin time. That was an insane line. Anyways, welding time. So you can see we've got it bolted in here, coming across, and then we used our holes that were in here as the templating for the placement on these guys. And now Oscar is gonna weld those things in, and then we'll move this over to here, bolt everything up just the same, and weld another set in. And then we're gonna get over here and do the same over here. And then we're, yep, just keeps going. Oscar's got a ton of these things welded on here. They're all matching and all lined up, but as you can see, we got a big blank spot here because we don't have enough C-channel. C-channel is only in the parts where we don't need a ton of structure, and we're gonna use 2" in the other stuff. So Kyle and I are gonna go ahead and grab a bunch of that 2" over there. We're gonna cut it to length. We're gonna drill all the holes in it, and we are going to drill access holes. That's the new thing, is we're gonna, like, imagine punching like a window in the side of it here. And also, if you're doing something like this, it's super replicatable. Just build a template. That's what I did. You probably saw it earlier when I was cutting all this C-channel. Build a template, work out the template, makes everything so much faster. What's up, guys? Back for another day. We've got all of the stringers for the main part of the deck built out. It's kind of cool. We can get up here and walk on stuff now. You can see going all the way back and all the way forward, all of these are done. One kind of cool thing too that I noticed is, so when I looked up the general spec for a C-channel flooring support stringer that for a pontoon boat, it's usually a pontoon boat is going to have pontoons about the size of these outside ones, 25 inches, and they're usually about 8.5 feet wide. So you can imagine it like kind of from there to there. And they'll have a big empty space in the middle over here. God, I really hope I don't fall through this, but at least if I do, it's on film. So they'd have a big empty space right here, and there'd be a lot of flex. But since we have the center pontoons, our biggest empty space is just this right here, and it is extremely rigid and strong and can definitely take the weight. I mean, you put the flooring on there too, which disperses the weight even more evenly across the floor, but I'm very happy with the C-channel ones. And then obviously in the more rigid areas, we have the square. And you might be wondering, where do we need the rigid guys to go? Because I was thinking the same thing. And it needs to be the most rigid everywhere that the second level is bolting in. So right here in the middle needs it, right here in the back. And then everything surrounding the hot tub box needs to be the full square tube rather than the C-channel. When we have the blank spaces, like right there, and so on, that's where we can use that C-channel. So if you look at the boat right now, we've just threw a few of these in the middle to fill in the space, but it does look like overall we're gonna have to use a little less C-channel and a little bit more square. But they're pretty easily swappable right now. So we'll figure that out in their placement later, but for now we need to start building out the hot tub box supports out of the square. Just like we did with the other stuff, I wanna do this with math and then verify it with common sense. So what I'll do is I'll take the width of the box, subtract it from the center of one of these like kind of standard cuts that we did, and that should tell me kind of from here to here how far it's going to be. I'm going to go ahead and do that math. I'll cut one as a test piece, and then we can test fit it up against the box and make sure that it's the same on both sides. And then if that's good, we will do our math for our hole placement, and then we'll start mass producing. We got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We got to make 10 of these bad boys. Okay, we got the front beam on there, front stringer is on there, and then Oscar did a center line on the box and a center line on the back tubes, and then just ran a straight edge across all of it, centered the tub. We measured every bracket to the center of the tub, and it's looking great. It is very much centered. So the next thing that we're gonna go ahead and do is run a string line from here to out there, and then we're just gonna measure every single one. Boom, 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 boom. We're gonna number them all. We're gonna cut them all the length, and then we'll set them in here, and we'll mark our holes from the bottom up. Because as long as our tub is centered and we know our pontoons are in the right spot, because all that added up, that's all that we need to do. So we're basically building to the box now rather than fussing with these holes, because they are just absolutely crazy and they don't match from side to side. So we're gonna use the pontoons as a template. Okay, Oscar and I got our 6 pieces cut for each side. We're gonna go ahead and get these on here and bolted in to each side. And we should have a nice straight line of aluminum stringers running down, connecting to the tub. The hot tub. All right, look at that. The hot tub has its supports all lined up. We just threw 1 bolt into each. Now this is really cool to step way back and look at this. Hang on. How cool is that? We built a giant structure. This thing is rad. I like this angle because you could just see the hot tub box just disappearing out into the center of it. So that's all good. Now there are some more supports to be coming around the hot tub box, but we need to weld the hot tub box to these pontoons before we do that. So we're gonna pause on that, but there's a lot of stuff that's going to connect here to here. We're going to connect here to another set right here of these mounts right here with a nice gusset, a nice support coming there. So we're going to go there to there, and then there to there, and then in the front there to there. So there's a little bit more to go, but the hot tub box, although it's perfectly centered, that's good. It needs to slide back a little bit more, so we got to cut these things flat. You see we've got those guidelines there where the thing's sticking out a little bit extra. We're going to be cutting those things flat and welding the hot tub box to those pontoons, and then we can support it all in and bolt it all up. But it's also interesting too because we have to be able to get underneath that to weld it, so we're going to have to be able to lift just the hot tub box and the center pontoon. So it's a lot of bolts that got to come back out of this thing. Or we just lift the whole entire thing, who knows. Now that we've got our stringers and our supports on here, I want to try out the decking material and walk on this thing a little bit and see what it's going to be like. So pontoonstuff.com, huge sponsor of this build. They sell flooring materials, all sorts of good stuff. And this is their flooring wood. I'll tell you more about it when we do that full-on installation, but it's got a lot of really good properties that make it great for being on the water and stuff like that. It's basically the best stuff in the business to be on the water. So it's got some thickness to it. It's got some girth, which is going to be great. Oscar and I will take a few sheets. I think we'll take like 3 sheets, and we should be able to lay them side by side by side and go for a walk. I want to see what it's like on the seams. I want to see how much flex we have, how much bounce we got, all that good stuff. Oh, you guys, this is so cool. Well, it's fun to walk around on the boat for the first time, but then it's also so cool to just look at this and think like, okay, so 6 feet long engine compartments, right? They come back off of there. And then from here to here, you got barbecue space right here. And then you would be standing here. First seat is kind of like right along there. And all the way forward is epic boat space. This is so cool. I'm so amped about this. This flooring is fantastic. Huge thanks to pontoonstuff.com. I'll put a link in the description. It's really, really robust. You can't feel when you're walking on it where the seam is. I know there's nothing under me right here, and I'm bouncing around, and you can't feel the difference of where the support beams are and where they're not. And that's not even bolted down yet. So that's going to be great flooring. I had worries about having a seam right here because we have to have those seams running all the way forward, and I had worries, but no longer do I have any worries. And these boards will be staggered. Is the game plan is we're going to offset them and stagger them so these seams are not all going to be on the same stringer, because these boards are really sturdy and really strong, and they're going to add to even more of the horizontal, we'd call it, I guess, front to back rigidity that we want to have in this boat. So we hopefully don't snap off the hot tub box or snap our custom made long pontoons in half. But I'll tell you, from being around this thing, it's pretty damn sturdy these days. Now that we got all those stringers in there, it's bolted up good, and it is so fun to be able to walk around. We've got to weld out a bunch of stuff, and then in the next episode, we're going to start mounting the engines into the back here. It's going to be exciting stuff. Make sure you subscribe so you don't miss when that episode comes out 1 week for today. Thank you guys so much for the support. Thanks for checking out our merch. We've got new B is for Boat and all sorts of other great merch. I Make Bad Decisions shirts. They are at bisforbuild.com. Thank you guys so much for watching. We'll see you on the next one. Peace!